moviegoers are interested in nostalgia, and they're interested in that period. And our film doesn't necessarily glorify that period in the way that films that tell stories from that period often do. Hi, AFI Movie Club. This is Erik Messerschmidt, cinematographer on Mank, one of AFI's movies of the year. Thank you so much. Honored to be here. So the premise here is that Mank has woken up. What he soon learns is Hearst Castle, and he's awoken by the screams of a woman, and he's off trying to figure out where they're coming from, and he comes across this movie set, which is kind of a strange sight, and he sort of wanders in a little bit hungover, and comes across two major characters here. It's Irving Thalberg and Louis Mayer, and that's where we first meet them. And we shot this scene in sort of Westlake Village area, kind of Potrero Road in Los Angeles. And the scene is quite complex. It was, we meet a number of major characters here. And we are reintroduced to Shelley Metcalf, and it's where we first meet Marion Davies. So it's quite a bit of exposition, and it's quite a bit of introduction. And of course, it's also where we meet William Randolph Hearst for the first time. So there's a lot of coverage and a lot of axes of screen direction, and the sun was moving the whole time. So when David and I first kind of broke the scene apart, we knew that we had to stage it relative to where we knew the sun was going to be. So we spent a lot of prep with Don Burt, thinking about the position of these tents, thinking of the position of this kind of funeral pyre, if you will, or the stake that she's tied to, and also where Hearst comes from in that motorized camera car.
Guilty. And I remember you, Miss Davis, regaling us with stories about dodging trolley cars in Brooklyn.
Everything was designed around the position of the sun, so that we could try and maintain some sun continuity. As you can see, everyone's a little bit either backlit or sidelit in this scene, and it took us, God, 3 or 4 days to shoot, I think, but we really wanted to make it feel like it was all continuous. So the sun is in the same place relative to the actors in each piece of coverage, ideally. So trying to make it feel as seamless as possible. Not always successful, but pretty close, I think. A lot of the clouds here have been painted in, actually, with the help of our friends in the visual effects department. We didn't have consistently puffy cloud days. We had some sunny days. We had some blue sky days. But we did, for a lot of our coverage, particularly some of these wider shots of the pyre, we were lucky to get clouds that we wanted. So they were able to grab those and replicate them. As they did with the flares in this scene. The flares are the result of conversations David and I had in the prep when we looked at a number of movies we liked from the period. That's a good example there over her shoulder. We love these kind of halation ring flares, we called them.
Aunt Marion, Mank.
You sleep well?
Until your rather dramatic wake-up call.
This is all Pop's idea. He wants me ready to take on the talkies.
First positions, please.
That's where we meet Charlie Lederer there. Here we see our special effects technicians adding smoke. And there's our cowboys running. This was quite an undertaking here. This car was mechanized with the help of our special effects team, so that we could do take after take, and it would always hit the correct mark. So it's actually being pulled by a cable as it's running along that track. Again, trying to keep the sun as backlit as possible, so the scene cuts together as smoothly as possible. And this, of course, was important, the reveal of Hearst through the smoke and dust of the camera car. We shot most of the scene with 3 cameras, 2 or 3 cameras, rolling most of the time. Here are the cameras, of course, on a crane as it booms up.
Talk of the future. They're going to need people who honor words, give them voice.
There's a golden age coming when all the world will be a stage. And you perhaps the Shakespeare.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought you'd be that keenly interested in the honoring of words.
What's so funny?
And then as Mank walks over to have this brief conversation with Hearst, it's a 3-camera setup mounted on the car so they can reset the car back to its one position in the scene. So here we have a car master shot. And then there's coverage as well over Hearst onto Mank and then back onto Hearst. That's mounted to the vehicle, of course, as is that one.
Too true.
Now, how many gangsters do Americans meet in a lifetime? How many families are like the Marx Brothers?
You mean besides my own?
Ah! Very good.
It's one of my favorite shots in the movie, this one right here. The timing just kind of worked perfectly for us, the first take. We said, oh, great, let's do that timing again with the horses and the car pulling away as Mank turns to Marion. We did get pretty lucky with the weather. I was pretty worried about it when we shot the scene, but it worked out. I hadn't seen a Mitchell Rackover camera in action in a long time. I mean, I think the last time I saw anything like that, it was probably on an animation stand or something, you know. I mean, the cameras we had still worked. They were still fully functional. We were running them and, you know, you got to open and look at the movement and see the pull down claws operating. It was kind of nice to see, you know, even just for nostalgia. Those probably would have been arc lights back in the day. They were not. Those were, you know, 12K Fresnels or 10K Fresnels or whatever we had fitted them with. But they were period correct housings for those lights. And the camera crane was something that the set decorator had found at History for Hire or something. Was like, okay, we have to use this. And that's absolutely of the period. Yeah, so it's, you know, we got to lean into it a little bit there, I guess, which is always fun. The political climate we're in now is certainly relevant. And I think, almost unexpectedly, the role of fake news and the fake newsreel part of our film, the Upton Sinclair election, is suddenly a little bit more relevant than we initially thought. And I think that is a particularly important conversation. I mean, you know, and it is true that, you know, the MGM did participate in production of fake news reels to promote Frank Merriman, and you know, it's kind of the inception of the media's participation in the political process. So I think that's particularly relevant. I mean, I also think that moviegoers are interested in nostalgia, and they're interested in that period. And our film doesn't necessarily glorify that period in the way that films that tell stories from that period often do. And I think that there's hopefully something to be gleaned from that.